and welcome to TV Plus Talk, the final TV Plus Talk of 2025. I'm Charlotte Henry, and he is Chuck Joyner. Hey, Chuck.
Hey, Chuck, you had me, or hey, Chuck, hey, Charlotte. Oh, yeah, see, you had me completely rattled. Because when you said the final TV Plus Talk, I thought, what? I didn't miss a memo?
Oh, no, you don't get rid of me that easily.
Okay, good, good. It's good to see you.
But it's clear that we both need a Christmas break. So this will be the final show of this year, and this year only. We will be back in your podcast feeds next year. But it's been an interesting year for Apple TV Plus, now called Apple TV. We'll come to all that in a minute. But I just wanted to point out a couple of things that are launching towards the end of this year and towards the start of next year. So F1, the movie, the huge hit, Brad Pitt hit, is going to be on Apple TV from the Friday, the 12th of December. So by the time you're watching this, it will be out on Apple TV, which is really cool. People have been really looking forward to this coming onto the service. So that will be there. And then on the 14th of January, so just over a month later, there'll be the new season of Hijack, which stars Idris Elba. And what else do you need me to tell you about that? Idris Elba's in it. We're all good. So that's the 14th of Jan. Now, you pointed out an interesting story to me, which is Apple TV hit series. They've been named, according to 9to5Mac, amongst the 10 best shows of the year, which I'm sure they'll be very pleased about.
Yeah, this one really struck me because we've talked so much about here over this year, and I think over the life of the show.
That's exactly what I thought about when you sent me this story.
Yeah, the quality of things. And I did not go to the trouble, I admit, of looking up, but I don't know that anybody else, as far as a network or streamer or studio or whatever, delivered the same percentage of those high quality shows. Now, I understand that this is a subjective list, but I think I felt validated a little bit, but I also feel like it validates Apple's approach to the content, that they're not just trying to just throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, that, they are really targeting things and they are hitting the mark.
Yeah, I mean, just to put this in context, it's not it is obviously subjective by definition, but it's not just a random list. This is the list by the American Film Institute, who one would think knows vaguely what they're talking about. The programs of the year are Adolescence, Andor, Death by Lightning, The Diplomat, The Lowdown, The Pit, Pluribus, Severance, The Studio, and Task. So there is a number of those shows that are Apple TV shows. Obviously, Pluribus, Severance, and The Studio have been huge hits for Apple TV, and they've therefore been recognised by the AFI. I think it is an endorsement of the strategy and some of the issues we've been talking about. And I keep going back to this when we see lists like this, Chuck. Do you remember back in 2019 where people were kind of maybe dismissive, maybe mocking about that Apple TV would be a success? How many times have we mentioned how skeptical people were about the originals only approach? Now, I'm always reticent to say these things because I hate if you and I sound like the PRs for Apple TV. But there keeps being evidence that the approach Apple has taken has worked, at least in terms of caliber and credibility of content. Now, we know for a fact, we never get numbers from Apple because it's Apple. But we know for a fact that it doesn't have anywhere near the numbers of Netflix or Disney Plus. We know that. And yet, these shows do break through.
And I would like to think that because they break through, and they break through in such a public fashion, witness Severance, witness the recent, I guess, positive kind of attention that Pluribus has been getting, that people then start to take a look at this because these are only available on Apple TV. I almost said Plus, on Apple TV. And so that's going to pull people to them if they're curious enough, or if there's enough furor over them. And to your point, back in 2019, yes, I absolutely remember this, and I think we've said this from the whole way along, that Apple plays a longer game than a lot of these studios and the studio executives, where they're just looking for quarterly results. Apple is happy to measure its results in years, and I feel like this bears it out. Now, it's easy for us to say this year because of these lists and what we're seeing. I hope that it'll be this way next year and on and on. But I don't see any signs of Apple changing its strategy or the quality that it delivers.
I agree with you on the latter point. I hope. I mean, I hope you're proven right. And I think that's going to at least be the attempt. Obviously, they want to put good quality stuff out. So I wonder, we've heard rumblings, haven't we? We've covered it on this show, of some kind of catalogue pickup. We've not really seen it seep through yet, but there keeps being rumblings about it. So we'll have to see. I wonder if awards and recognition like this actually puts Apple off making that strategic change. That's definitely going to be one of the stories you and I will have to watch in 2026. But yeah, I think in general part, it shows the execs. I mean, look, these are not stupid people, right? They know what they're doing, the guys at Apple, at the top of Apple TV. And certainly in terms of quality, it is bearing out. I'm not going to do our usual rant about marketing. You can listen back to almost any show of this episode and you'll get what we think about it. I wonder, though, if there is a point where they're going to be able to convert people into paying subscribers. We know a lot of people come into Apple TV free through buying a new iPhone, a new Mac, whatever. And that's great. I'm starting to see, I don't know if you see this in your side of the Atlantic, but I'm starting to see more adverts for Apple TV here in the UK, really advertising the show. So that's interesting. And I wonder at some point, 6-7 years into this, not experiment per se, but launch of this product, if we're going to really start seeing the numbers ramp up and it really challenge the big players. I doubt it, and I don't think that was ever the intention. I don't think Apple TV really wanted to be Netflix. I think it maybe wanted to be HBO. And I've spent my whole week covering Warner Brothers, Discovery and HBO and Netflix and all of that. So it will, I think that's its attempt. And it's with every new season of a show and every new series that comes out and is warmly received as high quality, that is bearing out.
It's funny you bring up HBO, because I was in a discussion recently about how HBO is no longer the HBO of old.
Oh, is that right?
And that people are almost looking for...
What do you mean by that? Explain to me as a Brit what you mean by that.
Well, the quality of the content, the idea that I really, as a consumer of video, I almost have to subscribe to HBO because it has the content I want to see. And that's kind of slipped away as they've diversified. And I'm kind of filtering that through your comment about them trying to do things like this to become HBO. And, so were they executing this strategy while HBO was executing another strategy? I don't know. I don't know if I think that the comparison is almost inevitable at this stage. But one other thing that you said that triggered something, and that's been and I don't want to take us off the path, but all the sports.
Why break with the habit of this show?
Well, yeah, but all the sports discussions we've had, and the fact that Apple has been bidding for some sports things and not gotten them, and I don't know that that's necessarily a bad thing, because Apple Apple has the money to throw an ungodly amount of money at these things, and they have chosen not to. They've chosen to really restrain themselves and say, we have a budget. If we can get it for this, we will. If not, we don't. And in a lot of cases right now, they don't. They haven't. How will that play out? Will those franchises be worth what some of the winners are and will be paying for them? I don't know. But it kind of feels true to Apple's strategy for me.
It's such an interesting point. I don't entirely agree with you, because I think Apple would have liked to have more sports, and I think it would benefit from it. we'll have to watch what happens with the Formula One rights. We'll have to see what happens now that MLS is more going to be more accessible. So we'll have to see that in the next year. But I think, and they've given up the baseballs we've discussed, but I think it would like a little bit more of the sports right. But it's really hard to get. And if you want the NBA or the NFL, it's really expensive. So there is a balancing act, which you rightly point out. Well,
and it's at some point, are they? I've one last point. Are they? Do they potentially dilute what they're trying to do? And back to the HBO discussion, my personal recollection is that there was very little, if any, sports on HBO at the peak of its power, and so now it's a different world today. And I'm with you. I think Apple would have liked to have had some of those sports. I think eventually they're going to need to, but maybe not right now for the price that's being demanded. And all the consolidations, you just mentioned the Warner Brothers situation this week, all the consolidations that are happening out there might be the time to sit on the sidelines and not have the burden of some of those huge contracts.
And a separate but connected point, and I apologize now for taking us off on a tangent, is in the US, as you'll know, there is a deal, an agreement between Peacock and Apple TV, isn't there? You can get, there's a bundle you can access to have both of those services. And Peacock has a lot of sport, including basically every Premier League football match. So it's quite a nice way, really, to be able for Apple to sell Apple TV and not have to pay for the sports rights. This is a pretty nice deal, right?
Okay, can I'll just make one more point, and this is way off. Okay, but does that smell a little bit like what appears to be maybe one of Apple's AI strategies, where they're not necessarily throwing these millions and billions of dollars at developing their own product, but they're cutting deals with the people that are throwing the millions and billions of dollars, and that leaves them a little more flexible to cut a deal for who is the best at any given moment, or, you know, keep their options open there. There feels like a similarity there, at least to me.
I know exactly what you're saying. And what feels very Apple also is doing these deals initially and then making its own thing. Let's think of the M series chips.
Great point. Great. Yeah, we can just run with this. This may not be the last show of 2025, folks.
No, it is. And because of that, we are going to wrap up and do a bit of a roundup of our favorite things on Apple TV this year. I'm going to use the mic and go first. So for me, my favorite thing, very predictably, was the final season of Mythic Quest. We didn't know it was going to be the final season until it, partway through. But it was, I thought they wrapped it up pretty neatly. I thought the episodes were still really good. There was lots of fun, lots of emotion. I'm actually I'm sad it's finishing because I really enjoy the show. I'm pleased it's finishing before it got bad. It was one of those comedies that managed to just about resist taking itself too seriously. So for me, it was a huge, huge hit this year. That's my first one. What about you? What was one of your highlights of the year?
Boy, it was really tough. But I think one of my highlights was Slow Horses. You
might say that.
It just keeps getting better. Or if maybe not better, at least as good as any other previous season. I'd almost have to sit down and take a week and watch everything back to back to back to back and then say which is my favorite season. But I love the character development. I love we're going to try judiciously to avoid spoilers here, folks. But I love the little bits and pieces we get about Jackson Lamb and his past. I love some of the subtlety of the show, where something that didn't appear to be quite as important at the moment you're watching it becomes very important later. I just think this is some of the best TV that's out there right now.
Yeah, Apple have done a phenomenal job of securing the cast it's got. I can't really think of one bad performance in amongst the cast. I think they're excellent. Obviously, Gary Oldman is a superstar, but the supporting cast is also really excellent. They've I've read, I think I've read one, maybe two of the books, but have you ever read any of the books?
I have
They're
not.
enjoyable.
I feel like after the series wraps, whenever it does eventually wrap, I might read a book, but
Nice.
I feel like the characters, to me, the actors that are portraying the characters are so much the characters that I don't want to take a chance of not corrupting, but muddying that at all. I want those characters.
When
to
you're
be
reading
those
the book, you'll
characters.
just be able to picture them.
Yeah. Yes.
But yeah, Slow Horses has been a knockout hit for Apple TV. No doubt about it. Every season they put out, people love. There's, what else can we say? It's a huge, huge hit. The other show I want to bring up is one you recommended to me and we both really enjoyed, which was Prime Target. Now, it maybe got a little bit silly at the end. Maybe. Do I care? Not particularly. Really enjoyed it.
I guess I'm one of those that if I buy into it, I buy into it. If I'm watching it, then I don't. And it was such a great from the first episode, it really grabbed you, and I'd like to top to bottom. And so silly, I'd have to go back and really think about it in the context of that comment, but I didn't feel it was one of those rare shows that they ended it so that it could come back, but it didn't have to. It didn't leave you feeling dissatisfied. And that's not something that seems to happen very often anymore. To your point about Mythic Quest, I thought they wrapped it up nicely for what they did. There were still a few threads I would love to have seen tied up just a little bit tighter. But
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, but that did not detract from the way they handled it.
No, but you're totally right. And obviously the 5th season was commissioned and then cancelled. So that's exactly, so you're completely, arguably right about that. But back to Prime Target, I really enjoyed it. Your point about buying into it early is totally correct. You said, "Oh, Charlotte, watch this. I'm enjoying it. I think you will." Certainly by the end of episode 1, if not earlier, and definitely by the episode 2, when I think I texted you going, "Okay, I'm in." Yeah. I was fully in. Like, the performances were great from the lead characters. There was complicated storylines and relationships and stories of sexuality, and I think, all sorts of other different issues between the relationships between people. I really enjoyed it, and the slight bits of silliness I was prepared to more than overlook because I was so bought into it. And I think it's really, and I actually hope they do have a second season. And I really like it. Again, not spoilers, but I hope they do a second season because it was very obviously, right, a slight dig about our AI obsessed world and the potential dangers thereof. And so I kind of hope that continues.
I feel bad about having to do this kind of disclaimer, but I want to warn people or advise people. If you go to Apple TV Plus and you read the description, don't be put off by the description. Yeah. Because while the description is accurate, it is inadequate for just how good a show this is. Because frankly, when I honestly don't even recall why I started watching it, because it's like, okay, I guess it's Apple TV, so I'll take a look at it. But beyond that, the write-up did not motivate me. But once I watched the first episode or two, and I don't even think I got the number 2, I was in. No question about it. So if you trust us, take a little time over the holidays, take a shot at episode 1, and I think you're going to run through it like we did.
Yeah, it's really good. And again, a set of excellent performances.
Yes.
I guess, again, we'll avoid spoilers, so don't turn off, don't freak out. I guess we have to do a bit on the morning show, which is obviously one of the big totem pole series that holds, on which Apple TV is built. We're now at the end of season 4. amazingly. I think this is much cleverer than some of the others this season. I love the personal dynamics between everyone. I love some of the issues it highlights. I think it's got a bit less preachy. I've given my views on Jennifer Aniston's performance before, and I won't repeat them. But I think some of the other performances really are excellent. It's got Jon Hamm in it. I don't know what else people want.
Okay, so I've got to put you on the spot. Have you finished this? Have you finished this season yet?
I've got a couple more episodes to go.
Okay, I have finished it, and so again, I want to be really careful here. But I agree with everything you just said. I feel like the storylines. It feels like the farther we've gotten into the season, the storylines and the complications have gotten more.
Totally agree.
Dense is the only thing I can think of. When I tell you,
but it all starts to make sense as well as it all plays out.
Yeah, but when I tell you that there's a payoff at the end, believe me, there's a payoff at the end, and sure. I can't go farther than that. But it is season 3 I enjoyed, but I questioned the time I had invested in it.
Yep.
By the end of season 4, I did not question it at all. It absolutely ended in spectacular fashion, and yep. I really want to see what they do next because I feel like it's going to be hard to top. So
yeah, I think season 4 is close to season 1 or as good as season 1, which I really enjoyed. Season 2, as we know, I loathed. Don't need to go back to that. Season 3 redeemed itself a bit. Season 4 is right up there with the first season that I bought into.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the run across, I mean, like any series, it has some high points and some low points, but it's overall, I'm not unhappy with the fact that I have invested that much time. I feel like the characters, the characters you start to care about, and that's the mark of a really good series. Can
we talk about Greta Lee's performance? Because she, I think, as Stella Buck is the star of this season. I think she's phenomenal. I think her outfits are phenomenal. I just think she's wonderful in it. I think she's incredible. And I think she really, as they've built her character over the seasons, I think she's grown and grown and grown. And I think her performances are excellent.
I agree. I can't comment on the outfits. But I don't feel like there's a weak link in the characters in the cast. No. I really don't. If I'd have to really sit down and think about every single character, but I don't believe there's nobody that I've said I just wish they'd go away. And
I don't wish Jennifer Aniston would go away. I just wish she'd stop deep breathing and saying, "Oh my God."
Okay, give it to the end. Give it to the end.
Sure. No, I understand, and I love how they bring the Broy podcaster into it. I think they do a really good job, actually, throughout the season of reflecting the modern media environment. I do think they did that really well.
That's, of course, you're a student of that. And that's a really interesting point. I haven't been watching it through that lens. So now I have to go back and think about that. That's a very interesting point.
So in terms of the sort of media news consolidation, the activist versus news thing, the podcaster digital offshoots thing, I think, and I mentioned this the first time we discussed episode 1, because some episodes, right, it feels a bit chaotic. It's like, why are there so many storylines going on in one episode? But that is kind of what newsrooms can feel like and news organizations can feel like. So that's kind of okay. So I think all of that, forget everything else, they do really well.
Yeah. It's one that I would tell anyone to, even if you haven't been watching it up to this point, invest the time, even if you decide that, one of the interim seasons is not up to the standard you would like. But Charlotte and I kind of marginally agree on the one season that just seemed to jump the shark a little bit. It just was a little out of bounds
Season
because
2.
it didn't feel like the characters were doing things that people would really do. On the other hand, depending on which we're talking about, yeah, we've seen people do some really stupid, impulsive things. So
Sure. I think jump the shark is the right phrase, and also didn't give people the escapism. Like, we had just lived through COVID. I've said this every time we discuss season 2. We don't need the melodramatic depiction of it as well. But they've really built it up again, and you're quite right about how good season 4 is. And I've really I've been pleased actually that they've brought the show back, because I was worried that it was a show I started off really liking, and I was worried it was going to drop off. And they've redeemed it, and I'm really pleased about that.
I've lost track. Are we on second or third picks?
Oh, you can pick whatever you want, Chuck, if you've got any more for me.
Well, I'm going to. There are two that I have left on my list, but I'm going to say again the most recent season of Foundation. I keep getting. I've loved this show. I loved the novels. To say that the show is loosely based on the novels may be a little bit forgiving, but that said, I've been a little concerned about some of the length of time. I've been afraid people would lose the threads. I was afraid I'd lose the threads and have to go back and rewatch. And they've done a really great job of keeping it going, keeping it interesting, mm-hmm. And I'm looking forward to yet the next season already.
Very good. This is a bit naughty and it doesn't count, but I'm doing it anyway because I really am looking forward to, in the next few days after we record this show, I might well have done it by the time people are listening, of watching F1. There's been so much hype about this. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing if the hype is right.
I am embarrassed to say that I didn't get to see it in the theaters. I wanted to see it in the theaters.
No, I didn't see it in theaters.
And I just, the timing just didn't work out. And part of it is my fault, because part of it was I really wanted to see it in IMAX. And so I kept waiting for it to come to an IMAX theater that was closer to me. And then all of a sudden it was out of the theaters. So I too am looking forward to sitting down, with a decent surround sound system and trying to experience it, because everyone that I've talked to says this is a movie that you don't just watch, you experience. And so I'm looking forward to that.
I'm slightly disappointed I didn't get to see it in an IMAX either, but I'm still very much looking forward to it, very much looking forward to seeing what all the fuss is about. I hope it lives up to that fuss. I mean, it's a pretty amazing cast, right? Any cast with Brad Pitt and Javier Bardem in it is got to be worth taking seriously. You've also got Damson Idris there as a character called Joshua Pierce. So you might find this interesting. IMDb, it's got a rating of 7.7 out of 10. Not bad. Rotten Tomatoes, it's on 82%. Not bad. But I'm going to be settling down to watch this, I think.
I did not know those scores, Charlotte. I'd be really interested, and if I care enough after the show, I'll look it up, to see what other sports movies and how they rank. Because I think sports movies of any stripe, they appeal to fans of that sport, obviously, and they, like you say, with Brad Pitt, that's going to bring certain people into it, whether they're into the sport or not. But I also feel like sports can be just a bit divisive when it comes to movies, because it has to be done well, whatever the sport. And I feel like that from everything I've read, there's been no criticism of the portrayal of the F1 racing as a sport.
Funny how,
and how it's portrayed. Okay. Yeah. So
I think I'm really looking forward to sitting down with this one. Just before we wrap up, there's a couple of, I'm interested that neither of us have mentioned these, but we should. Pluribus has obviously been a massive hit for Apple. Came out just over a month ago. That's been a massive hit. We've had 3 seasons of Luke now. That's a pretty I think under the radar hit. Just another one, actually, I should have said at the top of the show, to do with looking ahead. On the 9th of January, as you're just getting back into the year and recovering from the Christmas holidays, Tehran is coming back. That's the 9th of January 2026. That's another one to be looking off at. To wrap up then, before we head off for the Christmas break, I wanted to ask you this. Do you think Apple TV has had a good year?
I think it's had a very good year. I think that the low point of the year for Apple TV has been the lack of promotion, but at least one of the high points has been all the awards. And again, we've said this before on the show. You pay a lot more attention to that than I do. You recognize the importance of it, and it seems like every award show, their Apple TV shows are right up there, right in there pitching with everybody else.
Some good Golden Globe nominations.
Yes. See, I knew she would do that. They're constantly mentioned. They're constantly brought up. They're constantly listed among the best. And that to me speaks more than if they actually win, because the winning part is subjective. But the nomination is also subjective, but I think is less subjective because you aren't being asked to just limit yourself. So I feel like that has been a real highlight and part of the success story of Apple TV.
I think that actually the point about nominations is that Apple is consistently nominated. You know, there are standout things that win stuff, but there is a pattern now of these bodies, whatever we think of them, recognizing the work that Apple puts out. I'm going to say something that I think might shock you, and it's only just occurred to me as we've been discussing this. I think 2025 might have been Apple TV's best year. I think it's the year where it's had hit shows and shows that people want to come back to. So new hits and returning hits. I think the sports moments haven't been great, but that deal with F1 is a very big deal, and how it's established itself with that movie. I really think this is the year Apple TV established itself properly. I think there was disturbances due to the COVID years and what that did to production schedules. I think everything is back on track. I think with F1, it's had a huge hit movie. It's got good nominations at the Golden Globes. I think we're really truly at the point where if people look at that Apple TV catalogue, they go, oh, there's quite a lot for me to watch here. I don't know about the rebrand. Why not? I mean, it kind of separates itself. I'll forever take the mickey that there are 3 products all called Apple TV. And I'm not having it that the app is just called TV. They need to sort that out. But I really think this has been a big, big year for Apple TV. And it didn't occur to me till we were having this conversation. But I really do think that.
How could I disagree with you? And I think one of the big reasons I agree with you is they're twofold. First of all, just the consistency across the board of not just riding on 1 or 2 shows.
That's the point.
With no disrespect intended to Ted Lasso or to the early parts of Mythic Quest, they were out at a time that things were different, and
Yep.
Apple TV was new and finding its feet. The streaming world was a lot different, and now Apple seems to really be comfortable in where they are, and they're just delivering show after show after show. But your other point, because when I started making this list, I thought, oh my gosh, I got to go back and see what came out in 2025 and which ones I've watched and which ones actually are still on my to-watch list. And I realized that, again, to your point, that there is a bit of a deeper catalog developing, a repeat catalog that, that was a great show. I want to go back and watch that again. And that happened to me multiple times going through the list. And it's like, okay, this is the mark of mature. If you say mature, it sounds like you're saying it's over the hill. But let's just say a fully developed streaming service
Yes.
that is, is not young anymore, but it's not old. It's just coming into its own.
Fully developed is exactly the phrase I was looking for. And I think, and it's not unreasonable, right? Netflix didn't arrive fully developed. It arrived with the catalogue, then it started making shows. I think 2025 is the year Apple TV became fully developed. That's exactly the phrase I was looking for. Thank you.
Let's wrap it on that, because I love the fact that I came up with something that satisfied you.
Yeah, I'm just a bit sad that I've been so nice about something this and the service we talk about this episode. But you know what? If I enjoy stuff, I enjoy stuff.
Exactly.
So where can people keep up with you, Chuck?
Well, through the end of the year, I will be continuing to release content over at macvoices.com. They include some of our holiday gift guides, which are always a lot of fun, as well as our regular content. And watch out for 2026, because there's even more coming. On the socials, you can find me as at Chuck. Oh, sorry. As on the socials, you can find me as at Chuck Joyner on pretty much all of them. Charlotte, how about you?
Well, I was just going to warn people actually that watching your gift guides is great, but they will cost you money.
They cost me money.
Yeah, this is the thing, isn't it? You invite people on, you think you're doing a nice thing, and then you end up going out and buying the stuff that they've recommended.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm at Charlotte A. Henry across social media, and I'm at theedition.net. Newslettering, blogging, podcasting about the crossover of culture, media, and sport. It's just behind me. I have a new book out. It's called Streaming Wars, and it discusses all the kind of things Chuck and I discuss on this show and more. I don't think there is another book, and I'm saying this with due humility, that brings together all the different streaming services. There are obviously fantastic books on Netflix, on Amazon, and how it's got into Prime Video and so on. But I really wanted to bring everything together in this book. So I hope it'll either be a Christmas gift to yourself or maybe a loved one. And all I can say then is, Chuck, I hope you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And I look forward to being back podcasting with you in 2026.
Charlotte, the same to you, the same to all of our listeners and viewers, no matter what they celebrate. I hope you have a great holiday season. We will be back. Thanks for watching.